everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Power Within podcast. My name is Trevor Evers. I'm your host. And in this episode, we are branching out. Up until now, in the 6 episodes previous, I've had on wonderful hypnotherapists. But this episode, we have a wonderful lady. Her name is Yvonne Skelly. Yvonne is a wellness business coach, and she's based in Blessington, County Wicklow. Yvonne set up her own company back in 2014, and the name of that company is Empower Wellness. And she's a fantastic lady. I know her for many years, and it's a pleasure to have her on the show here today. Yvonne, how are you? How are you getting?
Hello, Trevor. I'm good. I'm good. Life is ever evolving, as they say. I know we have chats about these things, and yeah, the way life is going at the moment, we just have to just go with the flow of whatever comes in, and that's, as a wellness entrepreneur and as somebody who's working in the space of wellness and trying to inspire people to be the best version of themselves, it certainly seems to be a bit of a theme at the moment, is to just connect with ourselves and surrender into whatever is unfolding, you know.
Great stuff. Now,
Mm.
I'll give a brief bio to our listeners there. Is there anything that you would like to add to that bio and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would describe myself as a wellness entrepreneur. So, like, I've had a number of different wellness centres based in Kildare and Wicklow over the last number of years. So, I set up that company in 2014. I set it up really, people often describe me as a visionary and a conscious business woman because underpinning everything that I do within the business, there is this vision, this value to help people. So even though on one level it's a business, it's very much around helping people, because I recognized through my own journey, and one thing I will say is my own journey is very much reflected in my company, but through my own journey I recognize the importance of wellness and for people coming home to themselves and starting to realize their power within and understanding how they are the creators of their experience. And the more healing we do, the more aligned we are with ourselves. This will help create a much better society. So the company has that vision of empowering people. So that's why I called it Empower Health, because it's about empowering people and getting people to stop giving their power away to other people, agencies, governments, everything, and starting to really pull back the power to themselves and lead their life from there, from within. So that's what the company's about. But we've a few different centres. At one point I had 3. I've kind of repivoted, and this is why I'm saying you have to surrender to the great unknown, because I did have 3 centres, and the last 12 months I've actually got rid of 2 of them, which might sound like a contraction in many ways to some people, but it's actually not, because I understand that the universe was orchestrating these things to go. One of them went, just through, it wasn't going to work with the landlord, and then the other one went because guess what, it failed. And sometimes we learn the most lessons from failure. But certainly it's orchestrated in a way because it's allowed me to repivot my business and refocus it more on reaching out to more people. Because in the post-COVID era, I've certainly noticed, because having 3 different wellness centres, you're interacting with people, so you're getting a good litmus test for what's going on within the collective. And I did recognize that a lot of people were very curious, quite traumatized over the last number of years about what's happened emotionally, mentally, but they're also starting to awaken to other potential within themselves. So people are starting to question their life, what they're doing. I'm sure you see this in your own clinic. They're starting to question everything, what they're about, why they do certain things, even like long commutes to and from work, people spending hours when the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff happened. People were starting to question, well, why am I doing that? So when I started to see this and seeing people looking for better balance, looking for better meaning in their life, I started to repivoting my business in a way that we're starting to do more events. So I started to create wellness events, wellness festivals, but these are quite unique in that they're smaller, they're intimate, because I've done wellness at like Electric Picnic and Kaleidoscope and Wellfest and all these big festivals. And I didn't feel that they aligned fully with my values, because I want people to have real experiences. And when they're starting to be curious, I wanted them to be able to go to an event where they can really connect with themselves and to experience different modalities. So these festivals that I started to do, really inspired by what I was seeing, are things like where people can go and experience meditation, movement, breath work, sound healing, drumming. And what I've done over the last number of years is I've built a team of people around me that are very authentic, and doing the work. Because this is very important. We're moving away from an age where, because very often, politicians and leaders in our world, but business leaders as well, will talk the good talk and they'll say things, but are they really, standing over what they're saying? Are they actually truly embodying what they're saying?
Walking the walk and talking the talk.
Exactly. So they're like, do as I say, but don't do as I do in the background,
Exactly.
And we're moving away from that. I think true leadership, and people would consider me a leader, I suppose, in terms of wellness and in my business. True leadership is actually embodying what you're talking about. So if I'm standing up, and the same with all the people that we have around us in our community who are facilitating at these events, these are people that are standing up and they're talking, they're walking their talk. They're authentic, they're real. They're down to earth. There's no ego involved, But what is happening is people are having experiences at these events, And now I couldn't have done these events if I had two other centres. So even though there was loads of movement and change, I see that it was all meant to be that way. So we're doing the events. So that's amazing. So we're starting to do them around the country. And then we're starting to do, we work with corporates and we work with schools as well. And the schools I'm particularly excited about. Because on a spiritual level, these kids are very advanced souls. They're beautiful beings with a lot of wisdom within their soul. And we all have wisdom, by the way, but it's just we're so distracted and we're so in our own story and in our trauma and all, and we've so much healing. We're blocking ourselves from fully, actualizing our inner power and our wisdom and everything. But these kids, this is why I'm very excited about it, because these kids are amazing souls. But the way society has been geared, it's kind of shut them down a lot. It's closed their heart, it's closed their perception in many ways. They're really suffering mentally, emotionally. So working with the schools is really exciting, because on one level you're going in, you're doing the wellness, but I understand, because this is the visionary in me, that when you on another level, you're actually just almost like sowing seeds within them to help them connect to their innate wisdom, because they're going to be the future leaders,
You have a lot of passion for what you do. I know I was up with you last year with the family, and you're based in a beautiful part of the country. It's beautiful lakes and the scenery is amazing, and just fantastic facilities where you are, and you have a lot of passion, don't you, for the work that you do, and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
That radiates from you. Is that something that you feel?
I absolutely, I would do this work for free if I could. I really feel that this is vocational for me. This is part of my path. And it's why I set up the company in the start, was to, my philosophy was always to be in service to people. But obviously I have to be practical, because like everybody else, I have bills to pay and rent to pay, and I have to live my life. But, when I set up the company, I said the only work I want to do, if I'm going to work for myself, it has to be something that fully aligns with the values of who I am. And I'm so passionate about, nothing gives me more joy than to see somebody starting to tune into their own power and realize the magnificent person that they are. Because we are we all have so much power and capability to create. And my passion is to remind people of that, is to help people to remember who you are, and not to get pulled into narratives of lack and fear and, little me, I've no power, and live this myself, because I'm like everybody else. I've been born here, I've been programmed, I've had my own fair of, traumatic experiences and, life affirming situations that have really brought myself back home to myself. But I see it, I witness it in my own life over and over and over. That when I align with myself, when I really put my energy and my focus and my frequency to something, I actually can create things. Things start to come in. So nothing gives me more joy than to
Yeah.
help people do the same for themselves.
Sure.
Because life is wonderful, and
But
it's to have that sense of curiosity.
it's that, sometimes we can be our own biggest critics, can't we? And that
Mm,
we can have a battle, an ongoing battle within ourselves and within our own limitations, to
yeah,
push yourself out of our comfort zone and to get the best out of ourselves.
yeah,
And I think, have that in common, that we've had that experience in our life where at different parts of our life we needed to do that. And that allows us to help our clients even
mm,
more, because, we've been there, done that, kind of worn the t-shirt.
yeah.
And
Mm.
it's a great feeling to be able to facilitate these life changes within our clients to get the best out of themselves and the best out of their lives, isn't it?
Yeah, and because, like, I've a community of about 50 therapists that work within our the Lakeshore Wellness, and at the different events. And I also know from my own journey as well, Trevor, that there's so many different healing modalities out there, and different experiences that you can have, and practices and tools, and different ones served me well at different times in my life. So this is why I'm passionate about giving people the opportunity to experience different things. Because some things, like, I find, say, breath work at certain times in my life was absolutely amazing for me, because our bodies somatically hold a lot of trauma that maybe we've experienced, or memories, like the body holds a score. So I found breath work was very powerful for me to move energy in my body. But then there's other times when I find body work, massage is really good to help relieve stress in the body. And so
Yeah.
it's about kind of helping to educate people, and also give people an experience, because they lean into different therapies at different times. Because I've done that myself, and it's to have a sense of curiosity about it as well, and to just not take things too seriously either. Because sometimes when we're so deep in our big story, and there's a lot of people at the moment going through massive transitions. Relationships are breaking down, jobs are changing, the economy is changing. There's so much chaos in the world around us. And this is triggering a lot of people, because they're not sure what to do, where to place it, how to manage it, how to navigate it. So it's really, really important to give that support to people, and help them explore themselves in various different ways, but also to sit back sometimes and just kind of go, okay, it's just a ride. Like, don't take all this too seriously, because we can get stuck in it. We can get pulled into the rabbit holes of everything that's going on in the world. But it's also good to have a sense of humor about it, and just kind of laugh a little bit about some of the madness that we've had to experience over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
Sure, sure, and that's why, like, it's very important to keep a sense of humor in everything you do.
mm,
From my own personal experience, is that whatever you're doing in life needs to be joyful,
mm,
and if you're not enjoying it, then you need to ask, is it worth doing? And I know that, like, the work that you do, like, you are someone that really is joyful in what you're doing, and gets a lot of reward and satisfaction from the work that you do and the various ways that you help people. Now, what would be your biggest passion in life?
my biggest passion in a personal capacity, or in work, just generally speaking.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, I suppose one of my big passions would be nature.
Okay.
I absolutely love nature, and community. Like, even though I spend a lot of time in solitude, because I live alone, and I do like quite a lot of time in solitude, I do love getting out into nature. That's one of my big passions, because I think nature is a huge teacher, and nature has an amazing energy about it that can recalibrate us and keep us grounded. So I'm very passionate about nature, and experiencing all the beauty that it has to offer. But I'm also deeply passionate about connecting with people. So I get incredible, often I kind of say to myself, is this work or not? Because what I do, I'm very, very passionate about, and I love like people and life fascinate me. So even just, seeing, interacting with people, learning about people's stories, um, helping to inspire them and they inspire me. And so that would be a big passion of mine, is kind of building that sense of community and connection with people. And then of course nature.
Indeed, I mean, nature is so important, isn't it? I mean, like, I can vouch for that. And as you know, I have my own allotment down
Mm.
here in Waterford City. And I have to say that, it's thanks to that allotment that helped me get through the tough years. It was 2020 and 21. Somewhere I could go to get away from all the madness and just get back to nature, get my hands dirty and start growing some of
Mm.
my own food, and bring my kids up there as well. And it's a sense of peace that I got was remarkable from doing that. And I think, like, in the modern world that we live in, the 9 to 5 and all that, people can get very much distracted and pulled away from nature.
Yeah.
And it's always a good idea to every so often to ground yourself and to get out in nature and take a deep breath, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think nature has a huge role to play in where we're going in the world. And a lot of our problems is that we've disconnected from nature. Like, we are nature ourselves. We are human beings. We're part of the animal kingdom, if you like. We are very much about nature, and it's so important, I think, for us, on many levels. We all know nature is very good for us, but things like growing your own food, connecting with the land, understanding where it comes from. This is the kind of thing I would encourage or invite people to simplify their life as much as they can, and keep things as basic as they can, and stay very, very connected to nature. And what better way to do that than to grow your own food? And when you grow your own food and when you walk the land, the food actually grows in a way that's very aligned with your own energy field. There's whole researches on that as well. So it's really, really important for us to connect with nature, not just to sit in nature and breathe it in and admire it and appreciate it, but also connect with it in a real get your hands down in the earth way, like, and live and breathe it and experience it and eat from it, and get away from the kind of cities and move to more simplified community-based lives. I feel that's where we're going to go, and it's a huge role to play in this new paradigm that we're all looking to create.
Sure, sure. And one thing I found, I don't know if you found this, that with my children are very much connected to nature already. So when
Yeah.
we come into this world, we're really connected to nature. And sometimes we can get kind of distracted and pulled away from that. And so the best thing we can do is kick off our shoes and socks and, ground ourselves and walk on the freshly cut lawn and things like that. It really does help to calm. It brings a calmness within, especially if you practice mindfulness in your life. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, yeah. Or what I love to do is I love to swim. You can see the lake behind me. This is where I live. I'm very, very blessed to live beside this lake. So I swim in the summer. Well, I won't say I swim. I dip in the water because you're not officially allowed to swim in this lake, right?
Oh,
But
really?
I dip in the water, and I do just for the cold water immersion, but also the connection to the water, because there's all other, it's probably beyond the podcast here, but there's loads of research about how water holds consciousness. So some of your listeners might know, or your viewers might have heard of Dr. Emoto, who talks about when you kind of put positive thoughts into water, it crystallizes into these amazing water crystals. And the opposite of that, when you're using negative thoughts, the water crystals are very dissonant. So I also understand that water has a consciousness. So even when I'm dipping in the water, in the natural water and wild swimming and whatever, you're getting the benefits of the cold immersion because the lake is cold. But you're getting the benefit of connecting with the consciousness of the water. So I always try to do that mindfully and just be aware that there's so much wisdom and energy and codes within the water that can help us remember who we are as well. And I'd be very connected to earth energies as well. So where I live, there's a lot of high frequency kind of portals or vortexes, if you might call them that. So
Sure.
it's important for us to connect to these. They nourish us, but they also ignite memories within us of who we are and what we're capable of. And we can work in symbiosis with nature. Like honestly, like people might think I'm mad, right? But like where I live, so I live beside this lake that's in the background here. And whenever I have a big decision to make, and this is why I describe myself sometimes as a conscious business owner, I go down into nature and I'll sit and I'll meditate and I'll go in the water or I'll sit beside the water and I'll connect to the earth energies and I'll ask the earth energies, how can I be of service? The decision that I'm about to make in my company, is this in the best interest of myself, humanity, of the earth, or not? And help me give the understanding and the energy and the wisdom to understand what it is the best thing for me to do. And it's amazing, some of the things. Like recently I visioned in, I'd really love to create a wellness village. Like I think there's a need for this, and Ireland is very important globally as well. Energetically, I think Ireland is a big energy point on the globe for this mass awakening, or this coming home to ourselves. And I'd love to create a wellness village, like a designated wellness village. And I've been visioning that in and talking to the lake and saying, how can this happen? How can this happen? And then just unsolicited, I was approached by somebody to potentially do that very thing. So things can happen. We can use the earth and the energies of the earth to really help us. So this is why nature on multiple levels can help us. We can communicate it, we can get its wisdom, we can give our love energy to the earth. There's this nice kind of rotation, coherence between the two. But it's very, very important for us to connect to it on many levels, on many, many levels.
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
That's my passion. That's why I'm so passionate about nature and connecting with the earth and the grids and the energies and stuff,
It's fascinating listening to you, and it's really amazing information. And I have seen those experiments before where with the water, is it Emoto, Dr. Emoto? Is that
Dr. Emoto, yeah, he passed away a
Emoto?
couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and isn't that the one with two glass jars and one negative and one positive, and with the just by the thoughts, wasn't that the one?
Yeah, so the positive thoughts on one had amazing crystals, and the negative thoughts on another had, the crystals weren't great. But like we have to remember, you see, we have to start remembering these kind of things, because we're made up of a lot of water. Like 70% of our physical vessel here that we reside on this earth on is made up of water. And if we understand that the power of our thoughts and the electromagnetic frequency, energy field we're creating, it's having an impact on physical matter. So this is why I'm very passionate about getting people to remember who they are and the power they have. Because if your thoughts can impact the consciousness of that water and create a completely different set of crystals compared to, positive versus negative, that energy is going into your body all the time. This is why it's very important to be very aware and conscious of the power you have. So if you're in a very negative mindset, you're actually perpetuating that and you're creating that energy field. But if you go into wider positive kind of mindsets and more heart coherent, your heart energy actually starts to vibrate out of frequency. And that frequency starts to resonate and pull in the similar energies to you. So this is how you can create, this is how I create my business all the time. Honest to God, I've literally could tell you over and over and over times where I've done this. And it's all about the frequency we have within. And this is why the power of some of the events we're doing are so, people are having such profound experiences, because the frequency that people are holding within is being congruent with the words and the vision of what they're trying to achieve. And this is really, really important. And this is where we have the power. Sure. So I do it all the time. If I have a challenge, say financially, because this is my ongoing programming, I have this sometimes can struggle a bit with abundance and stuff like that. And abundance financially, I mean, I'm very abundant life, I should say. So it's not like I'm lacking in that regard. But say I'm, a bit short in cash flow or something. I'll sit and I'll meditate and I'll hold the frequency of, feeling the abundance and visualizing it and starting to, call in the help of the earth or my guides or whatever. And literally it changes. So I change the frequency within me. And then within 24 or 48 hours, this happens all the time. I'll get a job that I didn't expect, or I'll get a payment in that I didn't expect. So it's starting to create that energy field from within outwards to pull in that experience,
Absolutely. And that's a similar, this has been a theme of this podcast so far, that we are the creators of our own reality.
Yeah.
Folks, we are, to a great extent, what we think about, what we focus on, and what we tell ourselves. And we have the power within ourselves to create our own reality. Just like Yvonne said, I mean, I have similar experiences. When I come into the office here, all I need to be doing is, doing some research or paperwork, or, looking at a hypnosis video on YouTube, and all of a sudden, the phone rings. It's that's the way it works. It's amazing. Whereas other times, if I'm up in the elephant and I'm not focused on what I'm doing in terms of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, the phone doesn't ring. But once you give your energy and focus to something, then that's when it starts happening, isn't it? And Yvonne, I know you would agree with that. Yvonne, I just have one eye in the time.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely a pleasure having you on the Power Within podcast here today. And I know I've been so interested and fascinated listening to the wonderful information that you've just provided. And I'm sure, the listeners of this podcast are as well. Is there any parting words of wisdom you would like to relate to our listeners here today?
A big theme at the moment, which I've spoke to a bit, is distraction. We are very, very, very powerful beings, and the way society is designed, it almost distracts us from that. So we can get very easily distracted from different things in the media or dramas in our life or whatever. And I think it's important to not be distracted, to become the observer of what's unfolding, and to allow, really come back to yourself. I think that the most important thing for people right now is to sit with themselves. Now, understanding that you have the power, that comes with responsibility. And a lot of people don't like that, you see, because suddenly they're like, God, if my life is pretty challenging at the moment, they have to take responsibility for their experience or their perception of the experience. So, that's why a lot of people don't go down the route of really connecting with the power that they have within, because they have to take full responsibility for the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything.
It's easier to play the victim.
It's what?
It's easier to play the victim, isn't it?
It's easier to play the victim, but when you realize you have the power, you have to take responsibility for that, and that means taking responsibility for your experience or your perception of the experience. I mean, there's certain things globally that we cannot, control. There's going to be events happening. There's always drama going on around us, but it's our perception of it. So this is why don't allow yourself to be distracted by all this kind of the circus around you, and keep yourself focused and give yourself that time in nature and time to connect with yourself and to experience that kind of stillness within. And from that point, start to make decisions about what you're doing in your life. But I would definitely say to people, start to explore the areas of your life that you're starting to observe that are not serving you, and take the actions to release those old programmings and those old patterns. We're moving into a time where people can, like years ago when I started on this journey, it could take you months and years to deal with serious trauma that you might have experienced. We're moving into a time now where people can get rid of it very, very quickly. Like very accelerated healing can happen. Yeah. But you've got to stop yourself from being distracted. You've got to focus on, where do I need to change within myself? Where do I need to release? Where do I need to let go? Don't get distracted by the circus around you, and keep the focus on your own landscape within and your own frequencies. So that's what I would say to people, and find the modality that is, whether it's nature, whether it's standing, being around very uplifting people. Do go and get some form of healing, whether it's body work, energy work, whatever it is that inspires you. You'll know yourself what will work best for you in that moment, if you're still enough to listen and then follow the synchronistic things that happen, because the path will be laid out for you once you focus your energy on that. Absolutely. So no distractions, listen to yourself and get that healing to release yourself from the shackles of the past, so that you can really start to lean into your power. That's what I would say to people.
Brilliant. Yvonne, it's been so interesting, been fascinating listening to you, and thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time here to come on the podcast here today. Thanks very much. And you're very welcome to come on again. I've said this to every guest I've had on so far, because every guest has been brilliant. Not on time, or you've run out of time. But Yvonne, thanks very much, and have a great day and week. And so we'll have you on again at some stage if you're up for it.
Absolutely. And thank you, Trevor. I want to express quickly, because I know we're out of time nearly, my appreciation for all that you do and the work that you do, and to help empower people as well, and for your vision in creating a podcast to share some wisdoms with people. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Okay, folks. Yvonne, take care, and we'll see you soon. I'm sure I'll be in touch. Okay, folks, it's that time again to bring another podcast to a conclusion. The message here today is to take self-responsibility for your own health and well-being and your happiness, and focus on what you can control and not what you cannot, as Yvonne, I'm sure, would agree. Listen, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and until next time, we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.